Hey guys, it's Merce. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. I hope you guys are doing well as we are creeping closer and closer and closer to Halloween. I know everyone in the horror community is just really getting psyched up because it's like our time of the year. If you watched my last video, you know that I already have pumpkins in my room and I am already starting to work on my Halloween special. If you want to learn more about that, I'll put a link somewhere around here. And you can get the details on that. One of the things that I really miss about Halloween is just walking down any random street and seeing Halloween decorations up in the window, or lights, or maybe like a witch broom hanging out somewhere. Some of these decorations have been around for a really long time. You see some of the same artwork from when you were a kid, and it's just really nostalgic. In Germany, even though people do celebrate Halloween, it's not to the extent that how we would do it back home. So I don't get to see the little black kitty cats and the pumpkins and stuff in the stores. What we have here is we have, instead of, sometimes there might be like little letters that spell autumn or fall or Halloween. Here it just says Herbst, which just means autumn. Fall. It's just not the same. And there's like little mushrooms with porcupines and stuff. It's real cute. It's just not the same imagery for me, so it doesn't move me as much. So today I'm going to be talking about books that I've acquired in the last month or so. Not necessarily books I got in one book haul or anything like that. Some of them are new, some of them are used, some are vintage. Some are ARCs, so it'll be interesting to go through those. But before we get into the books, let's go over some message shoutouts. So the last video was for a review for Dead Lake by Darcy Coates and a review of Helena by Claire L. Smith. This message is from Alejandro Irigoyen. I don't know if I said that right. I apologize if I didn't say it right. Alejandro says, just saw the video and you have a new subscriber from Mexico. Hola. Loved how you tell what the book is about. I would definitely listen to an audiobook with your voice. Dead Lake is on my to-read list now. I love your channel. Muchas gracias. That is very, very sweet. I appreciate that a lot. Unfortunately, I don't have an audiobook, I guess, per se, like not professionally, but I do have some creepy reads that I do where I read some short stories and I add music and ambiance to make it super creepy. So I sent you a link in your message if you want to check those out. Super Strange Shadow, I really love that name, says, love the background music. It makes the reviews more atmospheric. Thank you so much. I've just recently started composing my own music for the review portions of my videos. So I'm having a lot of fun with that, and I'm glad that you guys are liking it. Kaz Taylor says, I know you like your haunted houses, but you should really read Hunted by Darcy Coates. No haunted houses, but a really good read. That's really interesting because there's a comment here from Brandy's Books, and she says Darcy Coates also wrote a sci-fi horror novel called Parasite that I absolutely loved. When I started reading Darcy Coates, it was just kind of like the ghosty, haunted housey, creepy cozy thing. But I have run across other types of writing that she's done. I did read a story called Station 237, and it was a short sci-fi story about a base off-world that had a small team of women who lived in a space and they exterminated some kind of pest that was wreaking havoc with some of the mining facilities that were there on the planet. And it was a pretty good short story. It was a little predictable, but it was pretty good. But I think like with Voices in the Snow, we see a little bit of that sci-fi vibe in there. So I would definitely be into reading Parasite. And also Hunted, because if Hunted has that same like thriller-esque vibe as Dead Lake, I'm totally in. Thank you for your comments, guys. They're really awesome. Now let's move on to the book haul. I don't know what I should call it. Book accumulation. It doesn't have the same ring, but that's really what I mean. Book accumulation. Audrey Rose. This is a vintage 1970... want to say 76. Yeah. A vintage 1976 Warner's book production, and the cover is so beautiful, and you'll never believe it, but I found it here in Berlin at a thrift store. There is a thrift store here called Humana. It's the one that's near me is like 5 stories. It's huge, but I was kind of just killing time, and they had this, and it's in English. I thought it was in Italian or something. Like it just blew my mind, and I was so excited. I have seen people reading this on Instagram, and I do know that it is about reincarnation. I know there was a movie made about it, but let's just read the back because I think it's a interview taken from the book. Question: after the events that you witnessed in your apartment 4 months ago, and after witnessing what has transpired this week, I now ask you, Miss Templeton, do you believe in reincarnation? Answer: yes, I do now. Question: Miss Templeton, do you believe that your daughter Ivy is the reincarnation of the defendant's daughter, Audrey Rose? Answer: yes, I do. And in the back are a lot of bold reviews. Riveting, compulsive reading, a blockbuster, compelling, fascinating. And Kirkus Reviews says, hot, 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 hot. So I know a lot of people did enjoy this. Someone I think did say that if you're already familiar with reincarnation, that the book is a little tedious because it's kind of, I think it's like supposedly written for people who don't know what it is, so it's kind of breaking it down, I think, a lot and maybe too often. But that was the only negative thing I really heard about it. I also heard it was, people read it and were really creeped out, so I'm definitely gonna enjoy this, I think. The next one is A Matter of Blood by Sarah Pineborough. The Man of Flies is Among Us, the Dog-Faced Gods, Book 1. This was something I picked up online, just read it, the synopsis, and thought it sounded kind of cool. But it's funny because I bought this book used, and on the inside, on the very first page, I don't know if you can really even see it, but there are corrections here made by someone, I assume probably an English teacher. They're adding in commas and taking out extra words and stuff. So I did read a couple chapters, and the writing is a little, I don't know, I think the writing is a little like meaningless. Like it's trying to sound very profound, but it's not really saying something. But I'm still gonna give it a try because the synopsis is just so cool. Detective Inspector Cass Jones has quite enough on his plate. 2 schoolboys have been massacred on his patch, and he's also tracking down a serial killer who calls himself the Man of Flies. Then his brother shoots his own wife and child before committing suicide, and Cass is implicated in their deaths. When he starts seeing silent visions of his dead brother, the DI goes on the hunt himself, only to discover that all 3 cases are linked. As Jones examines his own family history, 3 questions keep reappearing. What disturbed his brother so badly in his final few weeks? Who are the shadowy people behind the bank? And most importantly, what do they want with DI Cass Jones? So it sounds cool, right? Like I love the dog-faced gods. I mean, it sounds cool, but we'll have to see. So if you've read this, let me know. The next book is Bones by Andrew Cull. And you might remember Andrew Cull from Remains, and also I did an author interview with him not too long ago if you want to check that out. He's a really nice guy. He loves film. And has 4 short stories: Did You Forget Me, Hope and Walker, The Trade, Knock and You Will See Me. So I'm really excited to get to this because I loved The Remains. There's a review here that says a masterclass in emotional cinematic horror fiction. I'd say that is like a perfect descriptor for Andrew Cull's work. I mean, The Remains for me was exactly that, emotional cinematic horror. It was really good. So I have 2 books here. They are both by an author named Will Carver. I got these in the Abominable Book Club subscription, which I should have another one coming soon. The mail is so messed up right now that, you know, when authors want to send me books, I'm like, there's a 50-50 chance it's not going to make it here. Because I've had a few books just disappear or get sent back or whatever. These are the 2 books that we got in the last 2 subscription boxes. They're both thrillers. This one sounds really interesting. Nothing important happened today. 9 people arrive one night on Chelsea Bridge. They've never met, but at the same time, they leap to their deaths. Each of them received a letter in the post that morning, a pre-written suicide note, and a page containing only 4 words, "Nothing important happened today." That is how they knew they had been chosen to become a part of the people of choice, a mysterious suicide cult whose members have no knowledge of one another. 32 people on a train witnessed the event. 2 of them will be next. By the morning, people of choice are appearing around the globe. It becomes a movement. A social media page that has lain dormant for 4 years suddenly has thousands of followers. The police are under pressure to find a link between the cult members, to locate a leader that does not seem to exist. How do you stop a cult when nobody knows they are a member? So it sounds really intriguing. I've seen some mixed reviews about it. I think I did hear somewhere that this one was the better novel out of the 2. So let's check this one out. This is Hinton Hollow Death Trip. Hinton Hollow population 5,120. Little Henry Wallace was 8 years old and 100 miles from home before anyone talked to him. His mother placed him on a train with a label around his neck, asking for him to be kept safe for a week, kept away from Hinton Hollow, because something was coming. Narrated by evil itself, Hinton Hollow Death Trip recounts 5 days in the history of a small rural town, when darkness paid a visit and infected its residents, making them cheat, making them steal, making them kill. Detective Sergeant Pace had returned to his childhood home to escape the things he had done in the city, to go back to something simple. But he was not alone. Evil had a plan. So it sounds cool. I mean, I love stories that take place in like small, tiny, rural towns because the environment is just set up like a Swiss cheese, you know? There's just all these like little hidey holes, things to like secrets that you can just tuck in somewhere that people just forget about or never ask about. Interesting. We have a quote here from Sarah Pinemorrow. Remember this? And she says, Will Carver is an exhilarating and audacious new voice in literary crime fiction. So it sounds cool. I'm into it. But the thing is with thrillers is I tend to push them aside if I have supernatural stuff to read. So I can't promise I'm gonna get to it super quick. So the next one is an ARC, and this is Bottom Feeders by Jerry Roth. It has a pretty interesting synopsis. I've never read anything from him before. It says, a decaying prison hides a dark secret. Robert DeVille, the youngest prison warden in the history of the state, never expected to feel a supernatural connection in a prison. After discovering a diary, Robert learns a prisoner, rumored to be the devil, was hidden away under his feet. Was this prisoner responsible for a fire that killed hundreds of prisoners? Did he play a part in the murder of a local family years earlier? Robert must learn the prisoner's true identity and unravel why he hasn't aged in decades. Surviving a relationship with an abusive ex-husband, Jenny DeVille is dealing with the pain of her past, noticing a sudden change in her son's behavior and his horrifying drawings of murders no child should ever witness. She must discover the cause. As local children mysteriously disappear, there is little time to prove who the killer really is. So I think the premise sounds really cool. Interested to know why it's called Bottom Feeders. I'm sure I'll find out. So yeah. So this one was from the last Abominable Book Club subscription box. This is my used book that came with it, and it's really, really cool. It has a beautiful cover where it's like this owl and there's a castle and there's a moon, and I think there's even a candle in the castle burning by itself with no one around, you know. It's really interesting because it has some of the original artworks from when it was originally published in the 1930s, and they also kept the typeface. So this is one of those compilations that have a lot of authors that you probably know, just kind of like the same public domain stuff. I think that they kind of republish fairly often, I'd say. A pretty young housewife dreams of committing a murder by telepathy. An executed man cannot rest until he confesses his terrible secret by telephone. Skeptical doubters all over the world encounter unknown forces they cannot explain away. So I've already been pecking and pawing through this book a little bit, but I haven't read anything as of yet. I was kind of just looking at all of the artwork that was in here. These two are an ERC that I received from Deep Aria. They are The Overbridge and Broken Rock. They also came with some really nice postcards, just artwork that kind of supports the book. The Overbridge. It all started with an ominous fog followed by the screams, the darkness, and the silence. Thomas finds himself abandoned on the overbridge with no recollection of what caused his blackout. Unbeknownst to Thomas, something sinister lurks in the fog, unwilling to allow him safe passage. Thomas soon faces vengeful phantoms, hellish nightmares, and his own paranoia. Death comes to the overbridge. So what I like about this story is like the fog, you know, like things being in the mist that you can't see. It's very disconcerting to, if you've ever driven in fog or bad weather, just like how unsettling that is. And if there was actually things in the fog, I don't know, I'd lose it or something. Let's check out Broken Rock. Terror and madness seeks to devour all those unfortunate enough to be trapped within the infamous lighthouse of Broken Rock. Assigned to write an article about the old structure, George Morris soon falls into a spiraling nightmare that engulfs him with unspeakable horrors and grotesque acts of unnatural events. A strange fog soon surrounds the archaic lighthouse and consumes the coastline. As the horrid truth soon seeps through, death lingers within the atmosphere, and time is fading for George. He must find a way to escape or lose himself to the rolling chaos. Welcome to Broken Rock. This one also has a strange fog in it, so I wonder if they're related in that way at all. So I picked up this one, Tanner's Dell by SC England, online, just based on the synopsis. Following the hypnosis of violently disturbed psychiatric patient Ruby Dean, an unholy dark force was unleashed on the medical staff who tried to help her. Now only one of the original team remains, ward sister, Becky. Don't fuck with Becky. Despite her fiancé, D.I. Ross, being unconscious and many of her colleagues either dead or critically ill, Becky is determined to rescue Ruby's 12-year-old daughter from a similar fate to her mother. But no one asking questions in the desolate mining village Ruby descends from ever comes to a good end, and as the diabolical history of the area is gradually revealed, it seems the evil invoked is now both real and contagious. Don't turn the lights out yet. So what I liked about this is that there's a psychiatric patient who has just unleashed hell and everyone's paying the price for it, but looks like there's probably a reason why, and it is based in a mining town, and so that seems just really cool and creepy. My last one here is The Apartment. I have been waiting to get this one for a while. I had been seeing it all over Instagram, and I finally found it on my used bookstore site. And I did learn in just kind of researching the book that S.L. Gray is two authors. Mark and Steph are struggling to move on with their lives after armed robbers broke into their home and brutalized them. Shaken, they decided to get away and leave their troubles behind. A house swap in Paris with a couple they met online, the Petits seemed to provide the perfect escape. But upon arriving for a week's luxurious break, they find themselves in a festering, run-down apartment, and when Steph attempts to contact the Petits, she gets no answer. Unable to relax following a series of increasingly unsettling events, they decide to return home. Yet when they arrive, neither of them can shake the feeling that there's now something sinister about their own house. As time passes, Mark is terrorized by a series of unsettling visions, but it is all in his imagination, or is there a far more worrying explanation? So I liked this because it kind of reminded me of The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I don't expect it to be anything like it, just maybe kind of in that like twisty, turny, unexpected, thriller-esque kind of mystery or something. I'm anticipating this one to be pretty exciting. So those are all of the books that I acquired this month and last month. I did get a big stack of Darcy Coates books, which was really, really cool, but I did its own video for that because there's a bunch of them. If you've read any of these, let me know what you thought. So I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, please hit that like and subscribe button. It will mean a lot to me. If you're on Instagram, you can follow me at Harpies in the Trees. Please take care of yourself, wear a mask, and watch out for each other. I will talk to you next time.